Good day. Yeah, at times, our government officials, they rail out certain figures, and then you listen to what they say, you sit down, and then you sometimes think it's like a spell has been cast over you because you're listening to what the official government official is saying, but you're left totally bemused because such utterances should not be coming from the mouths of government officials. And if they are asking us to accept what they are saying as sacrosanct, then something is terribly wrong. And I'll give a very simple example. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Hebe Kachiko, recently came out and made a statement. And that statement is like trying to stand reason on its head. And I'll read out the statement so that we can accurately understand what he's trying to say and what confusion this is trying to cause. And it says clearly that the foreign exchange requirements for importation of petroleum products on a yearly basis is about $28 billion. That's the amount of foreign exchange that Nigeria requires to import petroleum products. And if you convert that to Naira according to the Minister of State, that comes down to 3.35 trillion Naira. And then he goes further to say that out of this amount, please listen, 40% of it, that is 1.34 trillion, is spent on logistics. I don't know if you understand what the Minister of State is saying here. We're importing $28 billion worth of petroleum products, that's petrol, diesel, kerosene, annually, out of which 40%, which comes down to 1.34 trillion, is used for the logistics. And you're wondering, I mean, you're just left short of words to try to comprehend how the logistics required to deliver the petrol that we're consuming is consuming 40%. That means if I go into the petrol station to buy petrol, out of every 1 naira that I'm spending, technically 40 kobo is used for logistics. That's what the Minister of State is saying. But all this would even be palatable if one can understand why are we spending $28 billion annually with 40% of that on logistics when we have 4 refineries. And then you begin to hear the figures that the same Ministry of Petroleum Resources and NNPC are reeling out regarding how much has been spent on these refineries, the two in Port Harcourt, one in Warri and one in Kaduna. Just listen. According to the minister, it costs $65 billion to subsidize petroleum products import from 2011 to 2016. 65 billion. That comes down to $13 billion annually. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. And then here are the amounts that they spent trying to fix these refineries. From 1999 June to 2010, 264 billion naira was spent trying to repair these refineries that should ordinarily be producing the petroleum products for which we are now spending $28 billion importing annually, out of which 40% is on logistics. And then under the Goodluck Jonathan administration, another $550 million was spent on these same refineries as at 2013. $550 million. Add that to the 264 billion that was spent between 1999 and 2010. And if you are mindful enough, you will discover that under the Abdul Salami administration, $92 million was spent on the repair of those same refineries. And before Abdul Salami administration, another $216 million was spent by the Sani Abacha administration. So when you add what Sani Abacha spent, $216 million, to the $92 million that Abdul Salami spent, to the 264 billion that was spent between June 1999 and June and 2010, and then you add that to the $550 million that Jonathan spent, and guess what the current production capacity of these refineries are? A paltry 8% is what they are contributing to the daily consumption of petrol by Nigerians. The remaining 92% is imported, according to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the NNPC. I mean, you hear that and you are just confounded that with these colossal amounts of money, enough to build new refineries 2-3 times over, our local refineries are still not functional, and we are still importing 92% of our petroleum needs. That's not even the disaster. The disaster is that there are new plans being proposed to spend another $1.6 billion, supposedly to now put these refineries in a state of repair that will ensure that they over time meet first 50% and eventually 100% of Nigeria's petroleum requirements. And the issue is, what are the assurances? What are the guarantees that this same set of people who have been in government for decades, I'm not just talking about the political leaders now, I'm talking about the government officials in NNPC and the Petroleum Ministry who have superintended and supervised these refineries over since the time of General Sani Abacha, what have they got to show for the billions of dollars that has been sunk into these refineries that are only today producing 8% of our requirements, and are now assuring us that if another $1.6 billion is spent, these refineries will ever amount to anything?